You ever have that one moment where everything you've done, every sacrifice, every late night, every act of love gets reduced to a joke? I had that moment last summer, on a sweltering June evening, surrounded by people clinking champagne glasses at my mom's retirement party. But let me back up, because you need to understand just how deep this betrayal cut. I'm Alex. I'm 34, single, no kids. I work in software engineering, dev lead at a fintech startup. I make good money, and I've always been a planner. I bought my first home at 28, fully paid it off by 32, and started investing heavily in real estate after that. Not because I'm obsessed with money, but because I grew up poor. My parents struggled. Like decide between milk and gas, kind of poor. My dad was a truck driver until his back gave out, and my mom worked in the school cafeteria. We never had vacations, and I didn't get brand name anything until I started working at 16. So when I started earning, I made a vow. They'd never struggle again. Not on my watch. I paid off their $172,000 mortgage on the house I grew up in. Quietly. No balloons, no big announcement. Just wired the money, told them the bank was taken care of. My dad cried. My mom? She smiled like someone who just got upgraded to first class. A year later, I bought them a brand new hybrid SUV. My mom's old sedan barely made it uphill, and I figured they deserved something nice. I even added them to my premium auto insurance plan to keep it cheap. Still, I kept it low-key. My parents were always kind of prideful, so I didn't want to make them feel like charity cases. I did out of love, and I kept doing it. Monthly bills, medical copays, groceries, I covered it all. When they had plumbing issues, I sent a crew within 24 hours. When their roof started leaking, I wrote a check. Every time, I got a thank you, sure. But over time, those thanks turned into expectations. Then came the retirement party. My mom had been a school cafeteria manager for 30-plus years. The district threw her a fancy catered event in a rented garden ballroom. String lights, buffet, speeches, the whole 9 yards. I paid for the upgraded venue. $3,200. Didn't even blink. The party had around 60 people, teachers, staff, neighbors. I wore a button-up and brought a bottle of nice champagne. I wasn't expecting a medal. Just thought I'd clap, smile, eat some shrimp, and leave early. Then she took the mic. It started nice. She thanked the school, her friends, my dad. She even got a little teary-eyed. Then she started talking about the joys and burdens of raising children. And I quote, "We raised a good son, a smart one who makes too much money and thinks he's important just because he pays our bills." Laughter. Real laughter. I froze. She added with a chuckle, "But hey, we all raise a fool now and then, right?" More laughter. Some people glanced at me. One guy muttered, "Oof." I laughed too, quietly. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't, I would have exploded. My own mother, mocking me, in front of a crowd, like my help was some kind of ego trip, like my sacrifices were a punchline. She moved on. Everyone clapped. Music came back. I sat at my table, staring into my drink, and every moment from the past 5 years replayed like a movie reel. Every payment, every favor, every time I canceled a trip because mom needed help with something. And I realized something awful. She didn't see me as generous. She saw me as gullible. I left before dessert. Told her I had an early meeting. She barely noticed. My dad waved me off like I was being sensitive. The next morning, I logged into all my accounts and started shutting the whole operation down. I paused the auto pay on their utilities. I removed their names from my insurance. I called the bank and had their phone line removed from my financial planner's contact list. I cut the wire on the monthly grocery fund. Within 72 hours, I disappeared financially. 2 days later, my phone lit up with 105 missed calls. That was just the beginning. When I say I got 105 missed calls, I'm not exaggerating. It started with my mom, then my dad, then my aunt, then some woman I didn't even recognize. Turned out she was the lady from down the street who walks her Shih Tzu past their house. My mom had clearly gone full blast with the "Alex is punishing us" story. First voicemail was all confusion. "Hey, sweetie, I think the power company messed up the bill again. Can you look into it?" By voicemail 12, she wasn't asking anymore. If this is some kind of punishment for what I said, you need to grow up. I was joking. Voicemail 32 was her crying. "Your dad has a dentist appointment next week, and we can't reschedule it. I don't understand why you're doing this. Voicemail 47. Full rage. You selfish little prince. You think because you've got a little money that gives you the right to hold us hostage? You are not God, Alex. That was the one I saved. I didn't respond. Not for a week. I let them sweat. Because here's the thing no one tells you about being the successful child in the family. They love you for what you provide, but they never really see you. You're a checkbook with legs. And when you stop playing along, they act like you've betrayed them. The silence hit them like a freight train. On day 8, my dad showed up at my condo. I knew it was him because I checked the doorbell cam. He didn't ring, just stood there for 10 minutes with his hands in his pockets, like he was working up the nerve. Then he left. Later that night, he texted, "Let's talk. Just us." I told him we could meet for coffee. We went to a quiet spot, local place I like. He ordered tea. I just stared at him. He tried to start light. "You look good. New haircut." I didn't answer. So he sighed and said, "Your mom is a little dramatic. You know that." I raised an eyebrow. She didn't mean it. The thing she said at the party. I stayed silent. He leaned forward, voice low. She thought it was funny. People laugh. People always laugh when it's not their dignity being stripped, I said. That threw him off. "You're punishing your mother." "No, I'm setting a boundary." He rubbed his forehead. "She's miserable, Alex. She hasn't slept in days. She says you're icing her out." "I'm not icing her out. I'm giving her what she said she wanted, independence." That's when his tone shifted. "Okay, look," he said. "We get it. You're upset. She crossed the line. But don't you think you're overreacting? You don't stop taking care of family over a bad joke." And there it was. That word, overreacting. The gaslight match being struck. I leaned in too. Do you know what it's like to work your ass off to make sure your parents never have to worry again? To do it for years, and then be called a fool in front of 60 strangers? That wasn't a joke. That was contempt dressed up as comedy. And you laughed too, didn't you? He opened his mouth, then closed it. "I'm not paying another $1, I said calmly. "Not until she calls me. Not you. Not Aunt Gloria. Not the neighbor with the dog. Her. She can say it was a mistake. That she's sorry. And she means it. Otherwise, I'm done." I stood up and left my tea untouched. That night, silence again. No calls. No texts. No apology. 3 days later, a letter arrived. A handwritten letter. I almost didn't open it, but the handwriting on the envelope stopped me. It was my mom's, but shakier. The letter started formal. "Dear Alex," like she was writing to a stranger. She rambled about her childhood, how hard things had been for her, how humor was her defense mechanism. She talked about being afraid you'd think we were leeches. She said the joke came out wrong. But not once did she say, "I'm sorry." She said, "I love you." She said, "We're proud of you." She said, "We miss you." But no, I was wrong. And definitely no, thank you. I put the letter in my drawer and went about my week. Until my bank flagged a strange request. It was a withdrawal attempt on the joint emergency savings account I'd opened for my parents. One they technically had limited access to, only in case of true emergencies. We'd agreed on it years ago after Dad's knee surgery. It wasn't a $200 withdrawal. It was $9,800. Almost a full account. I froze. Checked the access logs. Guess who tried to make the withdrawal? My mom. I locked the account. Called the bank. Revoked all access. And that night, I drove to their house. Not to argue. Not to shout. But to drop off an envelope. Inside was a document. I was taking full control of every joint asset that had my name on it. Every shared account. Every line of credit. I was done playing generous banker to a pair of ungrateful, entitled narcissists. When she opened the door and saw me standing there with that envelope, she said just one thing. "Are you seriously still mad?" I handed her the envelope and walked away. And the next time she called, she didn't reach me. Because I changed my number. I thought changing my number would be the end of it. But they get the message, finally realize I was serious. I wanted distance, silence, peace. But my mother had other plans. When the front door doesn't open, some people knock harder. Others kick it down. My mom? She logged into Facebook. I didn't even see the post at first. A coworker sent me a screenshot. It started with a picture of her and my dad, sitting in their living room, looking tired and pitiful, Dad with his hand on her shoulder, Mom with a tissue in one hand and what looked like a Bible in the other. Caption: when you give everything to raise a child and he turns his back on you the moment you make a mistake. She didn't tag me directly, but she didn't have to. Comments exploded. Cousins, neighbors, old church friends, people I hadn't spoken to since middle school were suddenly chiming in about how sad it was, how money changes people, how this generation is so cold. She played the role like an Oscar winner, the weepy, wounded matriarch betrayed by her arrogant son who thinks he's too good for his own family. People lapped it up. She even mentioned how she was afraid of losing the house and had to borrow money just to pay for groceries. Complete lies. I'd left them with 2 fully paid-off credit cards, a stocked fridge, and more than one emergency savings option. But you know how it goes. Truth moves like a tortoise. Victimhood? Like a Ferrari. I didn't want to play her game. At first, I stayed quiet for a week. I didn't respond. I even deactivated my Facebook. Then I got a call from my boss. Yes, my boss. He said someone sent an anonymous email to HR accusing me of financial elder abuse. Attached was a PDF with screenshots from my mom's Facebook post and a bunch of random allegations about how I'd stolen from my parents and left them destitute. Thank God my company isn't run by idiots. My boss gave me a heads up because he knew my track record and thought it was clearly some bitter family drama. But that was the final straw. My mom had gone nuclear, so I returned the favor. I reactivated my Facebook, and I posted, no rage, no insults, just a timeline. Screenshot of the $172,000 mortgage payoff confirmation. Photo of the car I'd bought them, next to the dealership invoice. A redacted bank statement showing the $9,800 withdrawal attempt. The letter she wrote, yes, I scanned it. A screen recording of her voicemail calling me a selfish little prince. I ended the post with one line. I don't owe anyone proof. But if you come for my reputation, I'll protect it with facts. It blew up. Hard. Half the family DM'd me apologizing. The other half went dead silent. My aunt called me sobbing, saying she had no idea how far it had gone. The kicker? My younger cousin, who's some kind of social media vigilante, reposted everything to Reddit under one of those family drama subs. It hit the front page. Comments were brutal. My mom was roasted alive by the internet for being entitled, manipulative, and reckless. Someone even made a meme of her holding the tissue in Bible. When you screw around and find out. She deleted her Facebook within 48 hours. But not before the damage was done. My dad showed up at my office unannounced. Security had to call me. He stood in the lobby, clutching a manila envelope. I agreed to meet him outside. He looked tired, older. The envelope had legal documents. He wanted to talk. We sat in the corner of the courtyard, and he said this, word for word. She went too far. I didn't know she'd sent that email to your work. I said nothing. He added, she's been acting out of fear. She thinks you're going to abandon us. I looked him in the eye and said, she already abandoned me. Publicly. He slid the envelope toward me. We talked to a lawyer. This is a release of financial control. You're off everything. No more joint accounts. No more access. We'll handle it ourselves. I opened it. It was legit. Power of attorney revoked. Access removed. Every remaining legal tether between me and them cut. Dad said, we're sorry, son. Even if she can't say it yet. Then he stood up, patted my shoulder, and walked away. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt nothing. Just an empty ache where love used to be. That weekend, I left town. Rented cabin. No phone, no Wi-Fi. Just me and the trees. I needed to remember what peace tasted like. But peace is never permanent when you're born into dysfunction. Because when I got back home, I found something shoved under my door. A single piece of paper. Handwritten. No envelope. No name. Just 3 sentences. You think this is over? We made you. We can unmake you too. My blood ran cold. Because the handwriting, it wasn't my mom's. The note shook me. Not because of what it said. Empty threats are easy to ignore. But because of who might have written it. It wasn't my mom's handwriting. Wasn't my dad's either. But it was familiar. Sharp strokes. Tight lettering. Like someone who grips the pen too hard. I didn't call the police. Not yet. That would have been my old instinct, the good son who wanted to fix things quietly, protect the family name. But that version of me, he was gone. Instead, I did something I probably should have done months ago. I called my cousin Darren. Now, Darren is that cousin, the black sheep turned success story. Used to sell fake AirPods in high school. Now runs a private security consulting firm. We hadn't talked in over a year, but when I explained the situation, he didn't hesitate. You want me to run surveillance or scare someone? He asked casually. Neither, I said. I just need you to tell me what I don't know. He asked for 3 things. The full story, a list of every bank or legal document that ever involved my parents, and access to my email from the last 2 years. 2 days later, he called me at midnight. You're not going to like this, he said. Turns out my mom and dad had opened a second emergency savings account a year ago with my name on it. I never knew it existed. But legally, I was the co-owner. They used my information to open it, probably thinking they were protecting the family or some BS like that. The kicker? That account had been used twice in the past 6 months by someone other than my parents. Cash withdrawals. ATM location. A small strip mall about 40 minutes away. Same spot both times. I pulled up Google Maps. There's a check cashing place there. A sketchy one. So guess who I want to see? My little sister. Yeah, I haven't mentioned her, have I? That's because she and I haven't talked in 5 years. Different dad. Grew up mostly with our mom after the divorce. Spoiled rotten. She's 26 now, still lives with mom and dad. Perpetually in between jobs, but somehow always has a new iPhone and eyelash extensions longer than her moral compass. We hadn't spoken since I refused to co-sign a car loan for her. She called me a bitter little man who hoards money like a dragon. So imagine my surprise when Darren pulled her up in the ATM security footage. There she was. Hoodie, big sunglasses, but unmistakable. Making the withdrawals. The note under my door? Pretty sure it was her. That tight. Angry handwriting? Matched her old high school notebooks. I still had one somewhere in a moving box, used to tutor her in math. Same pen pressure. Same slanted R's. Now I had 2 options. 1. Call the cops. File charges for identity fraud, theft, and harassment. 2, 3. Confront her. 4. Choses d'ordre. Don't ask me why. Maybe I needed to see her squirm. Maybe I wanted to believe, just maybe, that she'd admit the truth and back off. So I drove to my parents' house. Again, this time, I didn't bother knocking. I walked in like I owned the place. Because technically, my name was still on the deed. Another leftover from when I refinanced their mortgage to get them a better rate. A temporary favor that never got reversed. She was in the living room, scrolling TikTok. When she saw me, she paled. What the hell are you doing here? I didn't say anything at first. Just pulled out my phone and played the ATM video, silent, grainy, but clear enough. Her jaw clenched. That's not me. I raised an eyebrow. She folded in 5 seconds. Mom told me I could. Said it was emergency money. I asked her what the emergency was. Rent, she said. My lash tech doubled her prices. And I owed Shauna like $300 from this trip we took. I cut her off. You do realize that's identity theft, right? She scoffed. You're not going to do anything about it. You never do. You just complain and ghost everyone. Then come crawling back like a martyr. And right then, I realized something. It wasn't just my mom who viewed me like an ATM. It was all of them. I was never a son, never a brother. I was leverage, a tool, a backup plan, an unlimited card with legs. I turned to leave, but as I passed the hallway, I noticed something odd. The old bookshelf was gone. In its place was a locked metal cabinet. I froze. That cabinet used to sit in the basement. I remembered it from when I was a kid. My dad kept tax papers in there, old passports, birth certificates. But the basement flooded 2 years ago. I assumed they'd thrown it out. Apparently not. I asked her what was in it. None of your business, she snapped. But it was my business. Because if my name was on an account I didn't authorize, who's to say my name wasn't also on a lot of other things? Later that night, I called Darren again. He said, "Want me to crack the cabinet?" I said no. I had a better idea. The next morning, I filed a motion with the county clerk. I requested a formal audit of all jointly held legal and financial documents involving my name over the past 5 years, including those involving family trusts, property transfers, and co-owned accounts. I had the receipts. I had the lawyer. And I had a new target. My parents weren't just entitled. They were fraudulent. And if what I suspected was true, that cabinet held more than documents. It held the truth about everything they'd done behind my back. It took 6 days. 6 days from the time I filed the audit request to the moment my parents realized the walls were closing in. I didn't get a response from either of them during that time. No texts, no emails, not even a fake apology. Just radio silence. Until the night, I got a call from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Listen to it later. It was my dad. Alex, we need to talk. It's about everything. Just come by. Please. There was no arrogance in his voice. No performative guilt. Just something raw. Something real. So I went. This time, not out of hope. Out of curiosity. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark except for the front room. I stepped inside. My mom was sitting in the recliner. My dad was at the table. And on the floor, wide open, was the steel cabinet, stacked with manila folders. My dad gestured at them. You were right to dig. I didn't move. We did something stupid, he continued. A lot of stupid things. He motioned for me to sit. I didn't. So he walked over to the cabinet and pulled out 3 folders. Each one had a name written in Sharpie. Mine. My sister's. My cousin Darren's. He handed me the one with my name. I opened it. Inside, photocopies of bank forms, signed agreements, and co-signatures on loans I never authorized. Most of them small, a $3,000 personal loan, a $5,000 line of credit, but one stuck out. A $28,000 loan for property renovations. Taken out 2 years ago, using my name, my social, my credit, signed with a scrawled version of my signature that looked like it was done by a 5-year-old with a tremor. I looked up at him. We were behind on the house, he said quietly. Medical bills, the roof, and your mom said it was fine, that you'd never notice. My mom wouldn't look at me. She just stared at the TV, frozen on the "Are you still watching?" screen from Netflix. You stole from me, I said flatly. My dad didn't argue. You forged my signature. He just nodded. We didn't mean to hurt you, my mom said suddenly, barely above a whisper. I snapped. You didn't mean to hurt me? You humiliated me, gaslit me, let my sister threaten me. You dragged me through the mud online and sent anonymous tips to my employer. And all because I didn't keep paying for your life like some damn vending machine with a heart. I was trembling. My hands, my voice, my whole being. My dad tried to interject. No, I said, holding up the folder. You don't get to talk anymore. This is theft, and I could have you arrested for it. My mom stood now, eyes watering. But we're family. I smiled, the kind of smile that's born in hell. No, you're a liability. Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the letter my lawyer had drafted. I placed it on the table. This is an official notice of intent. You are to remove my name from everything. Every deed, every account, every legal tie. You are to pay back the $28,000 within 6 months, or I file charges. My dad looked at the paper like it was a death certificate. My mom sobbed. I didn't care. I walked out. Didn't look back. It's been 3 months since then. They paid back $8,000. I gave them one extension. That's it. My sister moved out. Apparently, she and my mom had a blowout when my parents refused to fund her new influencer lifestyle. My parents sold the SUV. They canceled cable. They're barely hanging on. Do I feel bad? Sometimes. But then I remember every voicemail, every Facebook lie, every fake "we love you" that was just code for keep giving. And that guilt evaporates. I've moved on. New number. New bank. No ties. The cabinet is now in my garage, empty. A reminder that love without boundaries isn't love. It's leverage. And I'll never let anyone use me again.